Hey guys, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Andrew Seegers, and this time we're joined by Derek Binder, Ash Paulson, and special guest Push Dustin from Source Gaming to go all over the latest news and rumors, as well as our general thoughts on the Switch since it's revealed. And let's go start off with you, Push Dustin, because, we didn't have you on before. So, what are your overall thoughts right now about the Switch, and have they changed at all since the reveal?
My thoughts actually haven't really changed that much since the reveal. When I first saw the Switch, I thought it clicked with me. Because we heard all the rumors and leaks before about the detachable controllers, but once you actually see it in motion, I think it's very different. And Nintendo did a very good job presenting that concept, I think, to the audience. Mm-hmm. And watching the trailer again today and multiple times, I still feel like it really hit the nail on the head.
I'd agree with that too, because we've had time to ruminate. We're off that afterglow of coming right off that new trailer, and we have some time to think about it. And it's like, oh God, should I regret this or not? But no, I agree that Nintendo still has a strong presentation here. There's details that have come out yet that make me a little curious, and there's a lot of stuff we don't know yet. But as for the trailer itself, I think they started off on the right foot.
The only thing I've noticed is I've continue to watch the trailer, repeatedly. I've watched it quite a few times now just to see what I can notice, and the one thing that stands out to me is just how ridiculously weird and unlikely that basketball situation is. Like, why would they bring the Switch with a basketball video game to the basketball court when they can just play basketball? That's so weird.
That is fantastic.
And it's at night, too. It's like,
yeah. Like, why would you do that?
Also, how did that woman notice there was a roof party going on across the street when she had her blind closed?
Maybe they threw rocks at her window, or threw.
That's how you get a hold of people.
That woman in particular seemed very angry about going. She was like, I guess I'll play with you guys.
I'm playing Mario, guys. Leave me alone.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I would be too. Super Mario Switch just came out. I want to go to your stupid party.
No one else has this game at this point. Why are you bugging me?
Exactly. Why would you go? Yeah, I'd stay home too.
Yeah, the trailer, if you break it down like that, had a few silly things. Overall, though, I'm in agreement with you guys. Like, even though I was, initially just slightly disappointed, only because it matched the leaks, what we expected so well. I have to say, like, looking back on it and seeing the complete lack of confusion of what the system is, Nintendo really did nail the reveal. They did a great job. It's a stark contrast to the Wii U. So their messaging is on point, and I think it's smart in how they really they primarily just focused on the system. They did show off a few games, like, a little taste of a few games, but they really did just focus on the system and making sure that messaging is clear, so, everyone is talking about the system itself. And I wasn't surprised by how much it blew up. Even Nintendo, going by some of the reactions from their employees on social media, seemed to be surprised by how much it's blown up. Like, I think it reached, 11 million, I think it was more than 11 million views in the first, 10 hours or something? It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially
if you combine multiple regions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I heard or saw that it is either second or now number one the most viewed video on Nintendo's YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So, yeah. It's gotten people's attention. Of course, we have quite a few of us watching it multiple times, so that might have inflated it a bit.
Well, that's a good point. Like, half of it is us just doing it for the analysis and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. But, yeah, like I said, it's a good first step for Nintendo. They were very pure with it. They didn't go over, like, it can do this,
Right.
it has these features. It's just, no, here is the main feature. We'll discuss the rest later.
That's a great point. It wasn't just about the hardware. It was about the specific feature of. They only covered things they needed to convey what the core idea, being that it's portable, the controller's detached, you can play it as a separate screen, and that was it. And they totally nailed it. And I have to say too, I think now looking back on it, and of course we'll see in the future. It's hard to gauge for sure. But it seems like revealing this outside of E3 was a really good idea. All the focus was on Nintendo, even with Red Dead being that day, which looks like it got a bit overshadowed by Nintendo's announcement. So what do you guys think about the name itself since then? And I don't think this is something we discussed too much in our initial impressions, because I still think it's a pretty solid name. I like it. But I have found myself forgetting this name at times. Like, I'm like, wait, what was it again? Like, Swatch? Like, Swift? Like, what is it? Like, I can get close, but sometimes I'll forget the exact word. Have you guys had any trouble with that? And what do you think about the name in general? Especially compared to maybe past Nintendo systems as well?
Well, I think right off the bat, it's way better than the Wii U.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy the name. I think it makes sense because you just switch between the console and the portable, even though it's not really a portable, versions of the Switch. So I think it makes sense. It conveys the idea of the system very well.
I think it does too. But I found myself not really. I mean, it's most important that it conveys the idea of the system, and that's fine, and I think it works in that sense. I just don't think it's really that fun to say. I don't think it really has a nice ring to it. Like, it doesn't roll off the tongue well, and I'm just like, I haven't really found myself forgetting, but it's more that I just kind of want to say NX instead. So I think I just kind of my brain kind of fools me into saying NX instead of Switch, because I just, not only have I been calling it that for that long, but I just almost like saying it more. It's just, I don't know. It's a cool name, but it's not my favorite.
I think I'm mostly just in an adjustment period right now to try to get used to saying the Switch, because I think one of the issues is it's just such a common word. You know, we can use Switch in everyday dialogue. It's not like we're going to accidentally say Xbox or GameCube or PlayStation and accidentally refer to something else. By calling it the Switch, it's very common, and you kind of get tongue twisted or maybe say something else. I've accidentally called it the Twitch a few times.
Nice.
Which because of that whole thing. And
it better have a Twitch option on there now, right?
Yeah, it should. It just makes too much sense. Yeah. But also, I just have ended up calling it the NX a few times just because you're so used to calling it that. But I think the Switch is something that will definitely gradually get into the lexicon and make it just make sense. And a lot of people have already shortened it to the NS, which I think we were talking about this last night, Ash. The NX is still a little bit more fun to say than the NS for whatever reason.
I think to me it's just NS sounds like a disease or a sickness or something, which is why. I don't know why. It just kind of it just sounds like that to me.
Well, MS.
Well, yeah, I guess that's why. Yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah, I think NX just sounds more fun to say. But no, I mean, I think actually you hit the nail on the head, Derek. It's more that it's just a normal word.
What do you guys think about the looks of the console? Because I don't think that's something we really touched on too much either in our initial discussion, and I've had more time to look at this. And I think it looks pretty cool. Although, it also looks, when you take those controllers off, it also looks completely unremarkable, or at least the screen does. Like, it looks like nothing.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. When looking at just the screen itself, it looks almost like any other tablet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you add just one button to it, then it's a tablet.
Yeah, I mean, it feels, obviously, I think the thing is it feels unfinished. It looks unfinished, which it is. I mean, it very much comes off as kind of an unfinished, rough design. And
wait. So, do you think it actually is unfinished?
No, sorry. I mean, I'm talking about in terms of the visual. Like, I don't think that's exactly how it's going to look when it comes out. I think it's going to look a little more polished visually, especially the Switch Pro controller. I just kind of got the sense that the visual design of the console isn't completely final. Like, I think it's going to be very close to that. I just feel like it's going to be a little more refined when it hits shelves.
Interesting,
but. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be mostly what we see, and I was going to say what I do like about it is that it seems to be matte and not glossy, which for all of my handheld electronics, I personally prefer matte finish just because I can't stand fingerprints and smudges, and the Wii U, like all the Wii, like the gamepad, the Pro Controller, like that black glossy paint, it just makes everything smudge so quickly. So in that sense, the Switch is already kind of an improvement for me. It's assuming it's a matte finish like it looks like it is. I much prefer that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it makes sense, especially for something that you're gonna be taking out with you and it's going to be seen by a lot of people. You want to look pristine as an advertisement to everyone else, right? If you're Nintendo,
yeah,
it is.
I think it just looks a little sleeker.
Yeah. I'm gonna disagree though. I think what we see is what we get. It's far too close. We're way too close to launch right now for them to make any major changes, I think. Unless this is somehow based on a much earlier version of it. But I think what we're seeing is what we're getting.
I will say in the Japanese version of the Switch video, at the end it says that it's current to October 20th.
Oh, really? Wow, so that is super recent. That's a good detail.
Wow. Okay, nice.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, I'm basically in agreement with it as far as the system itself. I mean, it's simple, but I think that's also a thing in its favor. It's not going to be confusing to people. It's like, oh, this is essentially a game console tablet that I can bring with me, attach controllers, use controllers with it, whatever. It all kind of works. And it is a little too simplistic, but I also think it's going to be easier to transport because of that it doesn't have all these crazy bells and whistles. I mean, there's not much you can do with it. Just make it as functional as possible, and that's what they did here with the look of the system itself. I actually find the dock the most curious thing, because the way they had it positioned was horizontally, and usually when you have a vertical stand like that, where you set up the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, 360, whatever, in a vertical way, you have it going sort of like straight back to the wall or TV or whatever. Not, I'm trying to describe this without confusing people, but it was lengthwise rather than widthwise going down, and how they had it set up, so as if you were looking at the screen itself. And I found that positioning very interesting for me, just how it was positioned and how apparently you're supposed to set this thing up.
Yeah, like right in front of your TV, right?
Like if you remember that scene, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too that the dock completely covers the screen. You can't, like, it can't be used at all like a second screen, like the Wii U can. And in fact, Nintendo has confirmed that it won't be used. But I think that is interesting that they designed it that way. I was trying to think, why would they do that? And I think they did it maybe like as a screen protector, so if you want to take it with you elsewhere, like it kind of serves as a bit of a screen protector, so you can just like throw it all together and throw it in your bag or whatever.
Because it is snug in there. I mean, we did spot those sort of rubber strips along it that will just be snug in there.
Right. And that actually reminds me of something. One of the reasons I may have been slightly disappointed is simply because I wasn't quite sure how much appeal the portability aspect has for me, which, seems to be the whole thing with this system, simply because I am primarily a home gamer. I like playing games at home. But then I realized by having everything in a single unit, plus, the dock and controllers, you can, like, this is going to be a really, well, I mean, this sounds stupid to say now. I mean, it's a really portable system, but I mean it more as, like, it's a portable console. It's so easy to take that elsewhere. So, like, when I go home for Thanksgiving or, Christmas, I can just bring that with me, the entire thing with me. And for me, as one, who does work all the time, that's actually awesome, because I can theoretically work from anywhere now. Like, if a new game comes out, I'm no longer locked to basically my house. I now have a pretty easy means of bringing everything with me and being able to do work remotely from anywhere. So that's actually what has me excited a little bit for this now. Not so much I can play it like on the bus, but I can take it with me easily to another house or like a hotel or something to play it there.
That's an interesting perspective, because that's going to apply to so few people out there, which is but it's true, because I mean that makes perfect sense. Why you'd look at it like that. I agree too, but I think there could be a potential problem here where it almost feels like, and I say this as somebody who's looking forward to the Switch, and I'm excited about the concept. I feel like this could be a solution in search of a problem, and Nintendo really needs to hope that it isn't, because they like, I agree with what you guys have said in terms of how they have nailed the messaging, and they have really done a great job telling people exactly what this thing does. But do people care is really the ultimate question. Yeah, they reached, however, so many people. But when it comes, down to it, is this something that people are looking for? Is this something that people have been wanting? And that's, I think, the key question here.
I agree in the sense that is a very real concern. Based on early reaction, it seems positive, so they're off to the right start. But excitement doesn't necessarily translate to sales. I said before, back when we discussed the Eurogamer leak and all those rumors, that making a hybrid is probably the best course of action Nintendo could possibly take. Because, obviously, their console line is dying. If you ignore the Wii, every single console sold less than the previous generation. And, of course, the handheld market's been eroding, too, because of mobile gaming. And we probably don't even know to the full effect. I mean, the Vita didn't do great. And the 3DS, even by comparison, even if you account for the fact that the DS was a bit of a phenomenon, the 3DS isn't doing amazing either, and especially in recent years. So that has to be scaring Nintendo, which is why I think they're trying basically to combine both markets into one, and not only salvage what they have, but build off of that. The question is if it'll work or not. But again, I do think it is the best possible idea they could be trying right now.
Yeah, I mean that's really the main question here is, and I guess the other question is, can the Switch be successful without necessarily catching that lightning in a bottle effect like the Wii did? I mean, it doesn't. I think people are maybe looking at this in kind of a binary way, like it either has to put Nintendo back on top again or it's a failure. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't I'm not sure if I believe that the Switch is necessarily going to put them back on top again. I don't really. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that it has to be a failure. It might do perfectly well and well enough to legitimize its existence. So, yeah.
I have a theory. I think the reason Nintendo has clarified since that they now consider to be primarily a home console, or even just a home console, one that's portable, is so that all comparisons will be to the Wii U. By that metric, there's no way that this can come up short.
Yeah.
I think it helps a lot that the main gimmick here is a choice. We're not forced to use motion controls. We're not forced to use touch controls. If you wanted it to be, this could be just a standard system, like the PS4 or Xbox One. And there's a huge level of choice that comes into the Switch. But the question is this enough to catch the casual market? What would normal people be interested in this? A lot of people point out, like, showing Skyrim and having that be such a definitive, big console experience, granted PC also, and being able to take that on the go, that might be a signal to people that's like, oh, I can take this stuff elsewhere. So I can see it working. I can see it being just sort of sticking with the same sort of audience. It's really a matter of how Nintendo markets this to the general public and how much the general public latches on to the idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, and for better and worse, Nintendo's still devoted to this idea that people don't care about graphics at the end of the day. And I mean, we don't need to know about the Switch's specs to know pretty solidly that Nintendo once again is going to be that third console with generally less visual fidelity than the competition. And people like us don't necessarily care about that, and that's fine. But, I feel like the market has shown time and again that there are people out there who really do care about having a system that pushes out better graphics than the rest. And I think we can all pretty much come to the conclusion that that's not going to be the Switch. Like, the Switch is going to be attractive because of the different ways it lets you play if you want. But no, I very highly doubt that anyone's going to go, be flocking to the Switch versions of a multi-platform game for the graphics.
Well, I'm not so sure the marketplace shows the exact thing you're saying, because I think historically it hasn't been the most powerful console that's usually won. This generation is kind of an exception, with the PS4 being the most powerful.
Right.
GameCube was slightly more powerful
than the PS. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the Xbox is by far the most powerful, and that's sold right around GameCube levels.
Right, that's true, but what I'm saying is that a lot of people that would be, interested in buying a Switch, or that Nintendo's trying to market the Switch to, will already have an Xbox One or a PS4 by the time this thing comes out. So, is the unique nature of the Switch and how you can play these games, will that be enough to sway people from just picking these games up for PS4 or Xbox One? Or later on, Scorpio, or whatever,
So I think one of the things that Nintendo's trying to do is really expand their IPs. They're really trying to get people re-familiar with Mario, re-familiar with Pokemon. And you can see that by them expanding to mobile games. You can see that with their deal with Universal Studios. Kimishima has also said it, and Iwata has said it before he passed. That Nintendo is trying to remind people of their IPs. And I think one of their strategies is to kind of use those other merchandise opportunities to try to convert people back to the system. Just today, I was talking to my coworker, and I showed her the Mimikyu song, that they just released, and she immediately asked me, can you catch this in Pokemon Go?"
Nice.
I was like, no, you can't, but it's gonna come out next month. I was like, a walk-in commercial. So yeah, I think the Switch, being on the go, is gonna be a crucial point, because it's gonna allow people to try these new games and to maybe be interested in picking them up themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point. With it being portable in that way, I mean, we'll take the plain example for instance. It's not a standard tablet. I'm seeing this guy setting up this screen on the tray table, and all of a sudden he has two controllers at his sides. It's not just a tablet that he's playing with. It's like playing an actual system. I think that's going to raise a few questions, and people are going to ask about it. So that might be able to naturally advertise itself, especially if he's playing a game that you can play on other consoles. And I think that's going to be another important point. Dustin raises a good point in that you can they're really emphasizing their IPs and getting people to recognize Mario, Pokemon, whatever, Zelda, whatever else they're coming out with. But I think another important point is if they're able to keep pace with PS4 and 3 and Xbox One and make sure they get every third-party title that comes to those systems comes to the Switch as well. Like, that needs to happen. They can't be left out again.
Yeah, it's true. I totally agree with that. But I actually do think also Push Dustin, he nailed it there, as Derek also touched on. Like, Nintendo has been doing a really great job this past year or two, especially reaching different demographics and just being more in the mind share, I feel like, of people in general. Between even Amiibo or Pokemon Go, and now we have, of course, theme park news and potential movies down the line. Like, it seems like they've really switch things up. And the Switch is coming at like a perfect time to kind of capitalize on that momentum, coming off Pokemon Go and then Mario Run and then whatever other mobile games they may have coming out, like Fire Emblem, for instance, or Animal Crossing.
One thing I'd like to add is that numerous times in the commercials they show people taking off the left and the right side of the Joi Con and handing one to another person. That seemed like a big theme that they were really pushing on. With the Mario Kart, you saw the guy just handing the half of the controller to the other guy, and they were able to play two-player.
And that's a good point. Like, take that plane example. It's rather than the guy next to him sleeping, it's like, we need to kill some time. You want to play Mario Kart with me? And they just play on that because you have two controllers with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's super easy to hop in. I mean, there has never been a portable system that easy to play multiplayer on. So that is pretty cool. Like, you could just be playing on the plane and have your seatmate join in with you. Why not, right?
Yeah. Got to pass the time somehow.
Hopefully play some co-op Mario Kart 8, baby, right? That's happening, I hope.
Yeah. Well, and no, actually, that is really a great point that you brought up, Push Dustin, was that, that is the kind of gee whiz kind of tech that will attract eyes and prompt questions in public, and that's something that Nintendo's never really had the benefit of with their one of their consoles before. And unless in the extreme cases of people who set up their like Wii U's in airports, but generally the Wii U was not really all that portable, despite Nintendo maybe trying to say, hey, you can bring it and you have the gamepad, but no, I mean, this is obviously a truly a portable console, and Nintendo's never had that before, and they've never really had that kind of self-advertising, element in one of their consoles before, so that's a very good point.
Hey, the GameCube had a handle.
That's true, and I always tried to convince my friends that thing was, more portable than they seemed to believe. I loved that handle. I was like, it's so easy to bring to people's houses, but they were not having it. Like, no, it's stupid.
I always felt like that handle was going to break off the moment.
Really? I love that thing.
The Switch is exciting. It's something new. It's a new console, and I said in our podcast, like, there's always like. There's a really good vibe right now about the Switch, and that's what has me really excited. People are excited for this. It is something new, and also I don't think we know everything about this yet. In fact, I mean, obviously we don't know everything about this yet. So I'm very curious to see what else and how else Nintendo is going to announce what other features and capabilities they may have down the line. But for now, it's fun just to speculate on what is out there. Now, speaking of which, that actually would serve as a perfect segue to going into the news and rumors. But before that, Nintendo has commented that there won't be any more news on the Switch until next year. Do you have any thoughts on that?
In some ways, I mean, it's obviously disappointing because everybody is hungry for the news now, especially now that we know exactly what the Switch is. On the other hand, this gives them the opportunity to just finish off 2016, push out the NES Classic, not really overshadow that, get out the rest of the 3DS lineup, bury the Wii U, and once 2017 begins, they can really launch into it. Because a lot of people want to know about the games and all that stuff, but trust me, you can talk about a lot of games in 3 months and get a lot of information out there, especially with Pokemon has taught me a lot this year about how much information you can get out there and how quickly. If they do anything like they did with Pokemon starting in 2017, where just every week and a half, new information, new game, new something comes out about the Switch, they're going to ride a wave of momentum until that system launches.
Yeah, no, sorry, you nailed it, Derek. There's really not much to add on that.
I'm completely agreed too.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense to revisit that topic. After the holidays, after once the shopping season or Christmas shopping season's over, you have a clean slate. probably very low competition in January for announcements. And they have a lot I think the most important thing they've done here is they built a very strong foundation on which to build. People now know what the product is. That's out of the way. Nothing distracted from that. Whatever they announce next can then build on that, and they can, unveil more stuff, more games, and without having the idea of the system get in the way of those announcements either. So I think surprisingly, Nintendo's actually doing a very good job here. They're actually really nailing how they're handling things so far, or seemingly. We'll see how it ultimately ends up. Alright, so even though Nintendo said there would be no more news coming out until 2017, there in fact was a little bit of news that came out shortly after they said that. And these are most like little tidbits. I don't know how much there's really to say about any of this. But one of the things is that some people are wondering, including ourselves in our discussion, is does this mark the end for dual screen gaming? And just going by the trailer, it seems like that is the case. You don't see any use of it being a dual screen. It seems like you can use the screen in conjunction with the TV at the same time. And Nintendo confirmed that is in fact the case. Which has some interesting implications. One, for if there's at all backwards compatibility or, eShop versions of Wii U games, that could be a problem if they bring back any of those games. Such as with the case of enhanced ports that we're seeing, like with Splatoon. Because in Splatoon, that game made pretty significant use of the gamepad. It's not essential to the game, but being able to tap to warp around the map was kind of an important mechanic. So, are you guys going to miss dual screen gaming, and do you think that might have an adverse effect on some of these games?
I'm going to miss dual screen gaming on the 3DS in terms of that. I don't think the Wii U... I mean, there's a few cases, such as Splatoon, that really made good use of that second screen. The Zelda games did as well, as far as inventory management and having a map with you at all times. Those are just really nice, convenient things, but they're also not essential. As far as the Splatoon problem, it's not as immediately satisfying, but you could very quickly tap a button, bring up an overlay of the map, see where all your partners are, and you're only going to have 3 teammates at any one time. Have them, you don't use the D-pad for anything, have each number, they put a number on each of your teammates, push that direction in order to immediately warp there, and you can still have that same quick snappiness. It's not as immediately gratifying as tapping it on the screen, but there's ways that they can work around it and still have it be as functional and entertaining. But there are obviously some cases where having that second screen is going to be not having it anymore is going to be sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I am going to miss, second screen gaming in a lot of ways, and I don't necessarily think it's going away. There might be another iteration of the DS. We don't really know. But if there isn't, I mean, yeah, I am going to miss it. I mean, games like the Ace Attorney series, for example. That's something that really is kind of uniquely... Obviously, it originated on Game Boy Advance, but that's like a series where the addition of a second screen really did kind of make a huge difference. And so I think certain genres of games will be affected much more than others, but I kind of hope that this isn't the end of dual screen gaming. I don't know, it's weird. I feel like it's been part of the vernacular and part of just what we are able to play for so long that I think a lot of people have just kind of gotten used to having it around and taking it for granted. But now that it might be leaving, it's a little weird not to possibly have another 2-screen gaming system coming down the road. So I am going to miss it, even though it isn't strictly necessary, Derek. I agree with you. It isn't strictly necessary, but I will miss that on-the-fly inventory management and switching, in Zelda, for example. So I am going to miss it to a degree.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sorry, I don't have anything else to add.
we need to start letting Push Dustin talk first.
Yeah, true. I know, right? Before we use up all the all the
ideas.
Yeah, I feel like this is actually, despite it being an actual loss, I almost think of it as more of a gain. I think the game has more of a detriment than it actually added in most games. Don't get me wrong, I think there were some very good uses of it. I think just in general, those were few and far between. There were times where I thought it was an active hindrance to my enjoyment of a game, such as in Pikmin 3, where I hated... I love the main controls where you use the remote and nunchuck, but the fact that in order to use a map, you needed the gamepad, just sitting awkwardly in my lap or on the table, that was horrendous. I thought that was terrible. Whereas old Pikmin maps, I thought worked fine. Just press pause, there it is on the screen. So I don't think it's that big of a loss. Granted, I did like it in Wind Waker HD, that was a really smart implementation, especially with, I liked how it gave you something to do while sailing as well. For instance, you could rearrange your inventory. But, even then, it wasn't a game changer. It's like, this is slightly more convenient than what it was before. There's actually one big thing I will miss about dual screen gaming, though, and it's actually more the potential of it. Because one of my favorite uses of it was asymmetrical gaming, which is something that launched with the Wii U, with Nintendo Land, and then we almost didn't see again, really. And I was really hoping we were going to see a use of it in Mario Kart. Like, I'm like, Mario Kart makes so much sense for like a double dash mechanic where someone else has their own screen. But then it occurred to me, based on the trailer, like how easily it is to seemingly link these up for a multiplayer. I wonder if maybe there's still a chance we'll see some asymmetrical gaming with this, assuming you have more than one system. Like if you have a friend that comes over, brings their system, and then you have multiple screens. I guess like playing on GBA even. But in this case, you could potentially do it with one person on the TV still, and another playing on their own screen, on their own system.
I wonder how many systems can actually hook up to each other, though. Because in the trailer, they only showed 2.
So I would expect it to match 3DS. Like at least 8 people can play together. So
which would give you 16 players.
Oh man, yeah, you're right. Oh, if Mario Kart has a double dash mechanic, 8 systems, 2 controllers with each one. There you go. Oh my god, I am just setting myself up for disappointment. I know it.
You really are.
All right. Okay, let's move on to another piece of news. I think we kind of expected this. The system is not backwards compatible with 3DS or Wii U games, at least when it comes to physical releases. Obviously, that was the case with Wii U games. Those are discs.
Right.
But apparently 3DS games won't fit in there either. But based on what they've said, it sounds like they have not commented on digital yet, like if you bought an eShop game.
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't think they could easily, like, as we were talking before, I don't think we can easily see even digital 3DS or Wii U games make it over. The best bet as far as backwards compatibility is virtual console titles.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's something I really hope they nail. It's portable. It could be literally a portable every Nintendo system in your hands on a decent screen. They need to nail the virtual console this time.
Yeah, but I feel like they're going to charge full price for it. You know, freaking Super Mario Brothers, Balloon Fight, Super Metroid. I feel like all these games people have bought like 10 times already. We're going to have to pay full price for them yet again, and I really hope not.
I really hope not. They figure out some way to. I really hope they have some way to bring over the games they've already purchased. But if not, I will allow them one more if there's an actual account system this time, and they guarantee those will carry forward. Again, I really hope you can bring over, or at least get a discount on games you've already bought. But I will grant them one more exception if that's not the case though. If this is again locked to the hardware one more time, I'm done buying virtual console games.
Yeah. That's sort of why I'm nervous to buy new virtual console games, because I don't know if it'll carry over. It's obviously towards the end of the Wii U's lifespan, so.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I almost feel like they will, just because of the kind of the deal they had going for transferring your Wii virtual console games to the Wii U. So I feel like they might have something in place to do there, but yeah, I agree with you. If they don't, that's going to be such a huge disappointment.
Right. Alright, well we kind of touched on this just a little bit earlier, but Nintendo said that the Switch is a home console first and won't replace the 3DS. What do you think about that? I think they're just hedging their bets here. I think they're, I already presented the idea that they're treating it like a home console so that it can be a success by any metric compared to the Wii U. But I also think, I really do think this will be, or I kind of hope it's a replacement for the 3DS, but I think they're hedging their bets as a third pillar, or I guess a second pillar, because Wii U is dead. Just in case the system does fail, they can always fall back on their handheld line and try again. What do you think? Do you think Nintendo is telling the truth here, or do you think they're just hedging their bets?
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense to consolidate all of their software into one system, because if you look at the Wii U and the 3DS software that has launched, a lot of it has been repeats. Like, you have Hyrule Warriors, you have Hyrule Warriors Legends, I think it's called in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have Smash Brothers, which is on both systems. Now you have Woolly World and also Mario Maker. So it's kind of redundant to release games on both systems.
It is. I mean, at the same time, I don't know. I guess I kind of don't want them to consolidate. I kind of really... I don't know. I almost don't think that this is going to be the end of their DS line for some reason. I feel like they're not going to go, put everything under one umbrella. I just don't feel like they're ready to retire that line. But I mean, I can't prove that. It doesn't really feel like they want to go all in on one platform and not have kind of a backup plan. And I don't know. I have a feeling that we haven't seen the end of the DS line, and I don't see the Switch replacing both the Wii U and the 3DS. It might be better for it too, but I'm not sure that's the angle they're taking. So I feel like they might I think there might be an element of truth to what they're saying about that.
It just doesn't make sense to me for there to be another handheld. Like, if you...
Right.
It seems so weird to me, like, if you go somewhere, you can bring both with you, or do you have to make
No,
a choice?
you make a very good point. They're almost kind of positioning themselves in a corner here.
Yeah.
Because you're right, because if they do release a new iteration of the DS, it's almost like they're competing for their own mindshare.
Right.
So I know what you mean.
This is a worse version of the Switch. Why would
yeah,
play
so
this?
I see what you mean. Like, I almost feel like it isn't the end of the DS line, but it almost makes more sense for it to be the end.
I think part of the problem, too, is, like, just the handheld market in general is eroding. Like, I don't know if we even know to the full extent of how bad it may be. You know, I think mobile gaming has affected it. Like, I don't know if there's really a place for handheld-focused experiences anymore that aren't just straight-up mobile games.
Yeah.
Which is why the Switch, targeting basically what are console games that you can take on the go, is kind of such a big deal. Again, if the Switch doesn't take off, I think I don't think they're dealing with hardware. They will try again with something else, which is why they're presenting it this way. That way, they're not going all in, at least publicly. They can always go back and try something else, and they can be like, "Well, it's always our plan to have another system instead of the Switch."
Right.
I really do hope that they're internally treating this as the successor of both platforms and treat this as a single platform. Especially for the reasons we touched on before in other discussions. I want Nintendo to focus all their efforts onto one system, where handheld games can be played on the TV, console games can be played on the go. You know, Pokemon can be played on your TV, and then, Zelda Breath of the Wild can be played on the bus. So that's what I want.
Right.
I want everything on one system.
But, it's interesting, though. I was actually talking to my friend about this last night, and he's a Nintendo fan as well, and he plans on getting the Switch, but we both agreed that there's no way that we're not suddenly, disconnecting and packing up our Wii U's once the Switch comes out. I mean, it's going to take a little while, I think, for the Switch to become like a suitable replacement for the Wii U in terms of what it offers me in my entertainment center. I mean, I can tell you right now, my Wii U's not going anywhere until Smash comes out for Switch. So, really, the Switch is not an instantaneous, console replacement for the Wii U.
It's not
for, I think, a lot of people already.
Switch, you're saying?
Yeah, it really isn't. I mean, at the very least, you're going to have to get Smash out, I think, until, for a lot of enthusiasts before they're going to want to completely make the Switch. Yes, I know. So, I think it isn't... They might be positioning it like that, but I think for a lot of people, certain elements have to be in place before they're comfortable saying, okay, I've got the Switch and it has everything I need. I don't need my Wii U hooked up anymore.
Mm-hmm. I would be very surprised if Smash isn't there, if not at launch, really close to launch. I mean, again, I expect a port of the Wii U, an enhanced port like what we're seeing, and that's been rumored as well. I think Nintendo's gonna, I think that's why they're doing this port idea, this enhanced port idea, so they can have a strong lineup of games either at launch or shortly thereafter. Kind of like, I guess, well, in terms of support, like mirroring the GameCube and how many games they had to launch or shortly thereafter. But in this case, they're buoying those efforts by having, these ports of games. So I would be very surprised if Smash isn't there early on, because I think Nintendo just wants... I think Nintendo wants to get people off the Wii U onto the Switch as soon as possible. So.
Yeah. Well, and they have these fantastic Wii U games that, sold to, that sold and were played by a relatively small audience. I mean, the Wii U was undersold so much. They're basically sitting on these great games that, like you said, Andre, they can have them ready because they already exist. They can add some new stuff and have them ready much sooner than they could completely new installments in all these series. And we've talked about Smash before. There's almost no point in them going to make Smash 5 so soon because you can't go anywhere but down from where they have this roster now. So it makes more sense just to go with what they have on the Wii U and repackage it, add a few things, and draw people into the Switch like that.
Sakurai has said in his Famitsu column Excitement and Exhaustion, he said that new characters adds new gameplay to Smash. And so if they were to port a new Smash, I think it's very likely that they would add new characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. I fully expect, at the very least, the return of the Ice Climbers.
Yeah.
And I also expect some actual brand new characters as well.
I think Wolf would make a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah. It would be kind of cool if they treated this as like a Smash All-Stars. Which, well, okay, so Sony kind of stole that name. But, bring in like all the best elements of the past games. Like some more, bring back some stages, maybe some classic items, and of course the characters, being Wolf and Ice Climbers, and I think, well, Snake would be amazing. That probably won't happen.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. Treat it like a celebration of the Smash line and make it the ultimate Smash Brothers.
Well, I mean, we only have 60 characters so far, so if Sakurai doesn't add any, he's obviously lazy, you guys.
Of course, right?
Okay, so unfortunately, guys, I feel like this is a pretty good time for me to duck out. I have somewhere I need to be, so you guys have a great rest of the discussion, but unfortunately, at this point, I have to drop out.
All right, no worries, Ash. Thanks for joining us.
Later,
We'll
Ash.
Thank you,
catch
Ash.
later.
Now that Limo's out of here.
Yeah, I know, right? Seriously, jeez. Really just dragging down this entire discussion, man.
Totally. Always going on about Smash. Come on.
Maybe I should leave.
All right, let's move on to some rumors here. Some final tidbits that have come from some reliable sources, such as Laura Kate Dale, who was pretty on point with a lot of these Switch announcements prior to release. And so I forget if all these rumors came from the same source, so I apologize if these are sourced elsewhere. But one of the rumors is that the Switch is region-free. And my God, I hope this is true. And I think it almost has to be. Of course, it doesn't have to be, but I really hope it is. Every handheld up to this point, aside from the 3DS, has been region-free. And I think it's time to return to that, especially with, how connected the world is now, and how I mean, I guess travel hasn't changed a ton in the last decade, but people move around, people switch countries, people visit other countries. It sucks you can't buy a game elsewhere and play it on your system. And especially with this being treated as a home console too, like, I don't know. I think it makes sense to go back to being region-free. And plus it's just totally pro-consumer.
Yeah, I own 2 3DSs, and one American, one Japanese, and it's a pain. Because that means I don't really get to play my American 3DS's games that much, because I have to whip out an entire system. Mm-hmm. And it's just really inconvenient, especially, as you said, for people who are traveling or living abroad.
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 Wii U's and 3 3DS's.
Yep,
Yeah.
Same here. Well, we kind of send the Wii U's back and forth, but yeah, we have one for Europe, Japan, and America in each case, and it'd be nice not to have to deal with that at the moment.
Yeah, that's a lot of cords.
God, it really is, right? I will say I do kind of expect, and I hope I'm wrong on this, but if it is region-free, I think it may only be region-free in terms of cartridges or the game cards that you can play. Mm-hmm. I'm not convinced you'll have access to other regions' eShops.
You might have to change stores, like your Nintendo account.
Right. I mean, that's possible. I mean, hopefully that would work at the least. But maybe what if you're only allowed one Nintendo account on the system, or maybe one region per system, perhaps.
Yeah.
So
That'd be definitely tricky, since especially with digital games, it'd be so easy to hop on and download it, because that's essentially what we do with the Japanese ones. We don't have physical versions. We just jump on and download the digital version, and there it is. Don't have to travel to Japan with shipping or anything. Just got to convert that credit card.
Exactly. Another rumor here is that the actual Joi Con controllers, both halves, have motion controls, basically effectively making them mini Wii remotes. And I hope that's the case. And I think it kind of makes sense, given, both how cheap that technology is, and how they basically already have to include at least one set in the system. I can't imagine them dropping motion controls completely. So I think it not only makes sense to include it in at least one of them, I think it makes sense to just throw it in both. Give you a proper, dual motion control experience. Kind of like the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, except the Nunchuck was a little bit not as versatile
accurate.
as the Wii Remote. Yeah, as accurate. There we go. So hopefully they actually have parity this time, is my hope. Especially with the fact that you can use them as separate controllers for 2 players.
And this would also easily allow for you to port over Wii games and have those available as a virtual console type title. Or let's say they do an HD remake of Skyward Sword for the Switch. Still have that motion control in.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe maybe that's why they haven't re-released it yet on Wii, or Wii U rather.
That could be, because I don't believe Skyward Sword used the pointer. It was all based on the actual accelerometer, which is why you needed the motion control plus.
No, yes. it actually did use the sensor bar for just calibration for recentering the sword. So I mean, it wasn't purely essential, but. Yeah, I mean, you technically could play the game without it, because you could recenter it yourself, but it was more convenient with a sensor bar. But actually, speaking of the screen, one of the rumors here also is that it will be a touchscreen, which I think makes complete sense. Although it is a little bit weird in this case, simply because you're only going to have access to that screen when you're actually playing it in its handheld form. If you're playing on the TV, you have no access to it at all, which is going to present some interesting problems potentially for game development, like a game like Mario Maker. How's that going to work? Because if you're building a level, it's only really going to be usable in handheld form. I mean, you could, if the controllers are motion controlled, you could use those as a pointer or something. But even that isn't going to be nearly as intuitive or easily to use as a touchscreen. So this is a very odd case, I think, where games are going to have to be designed with multiple control schemes in mind.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing I do kind of worry about the Switch is how many controller options there are going to be. Because if they make more add-ons besides the Joi Con, like if, for example, if they make a unique attachment for just Smash, or if they make a unique attachment for a WarioWare game, like how many accessories are there going to be?
I mean, I've seen a lot of concept art come out from fans, like just excited about the idea of the Joi Con controllers and what Nintendo could do with them in terms of just having special graphics, but details on them. So make the Joi Con controllers look like NES controllers or Famicom controllers or what have you. And other people coming up with the ideas of, well, rather than their current layout, maybe we can make them look more like a GameCube controller, and that way you could just easily attach it that way, and you have a pseudo GameCube controller. So there's a lot of possibility there, but as you said, that's a lot of accessories that you have to keep track of, and they already look kind of small, so you're going to be keeping a close eye on your stuff.
The only real accessory I'm hoping they make is like a larger version of the controllers, maybe. Like if you can get larger Joy-Cons to have a more comfortable experience. Like something with like a bit heftier of a grip for you to hold on to.
They do seem very small.
So that is one concern. Is like how comfortable are those going to be when you're playing with them like separately, especially when you're holding it like an NES controller. So, yeah, we will see.
Yes, we will.
All right,
not sure about that one.
Final rumor: the battery life is mediocre, and this is kind of already setting the internet on fire. Like NeoGAF has a multi-dozen-page thread on this, and the rumor is, I think it was 3 hours, right, Derek? Is that the rumor?
3 hours.
Yeah.
One source just says mediocre. Another source says low battery. Is 3 hours, excuse me.
Right. My concern with the rumor is that I don't even know what it's based on. It's based on a dev kit, which may not be, final hardware. Like, I don't know if we have the whole picture yet, but at the same time, I'm also not expecting great battery life for this thing regardless. It's a very powerful system powering a big screen. If it even approaches 5 hours, I consider that impressive for what it is. But I actually could see 3 hours in the low end. But I don't think it's a death knell for the system. Like, I just think gaming has changed so much, like portable gaming. Now that we have phones and we're no longer playing games like exclusively to distract us, like when on the go, I don't think 3 hours is that bad because, like, by comparison, I thought the Wii U's gamepad battery life was horrible. That was like what, 5 hours? I think 4 or 5 hours. But the difference is that was a controller which you're using constantly for long play sessions. Whereas this, if you're using the Switch in the same circumstances, you're going to be using controllers which have, probably a much, considerably longer battery life. So I just don't think it's that big of an issue this time, unless it ends up being like, a Game Gear at an hour or something.
So my big question is, how does it charge? Because if it charges via USB, then you can just use a portable charger.
That's a really good point.
If it uses some sort of special plug, then that makes it a little bit more difficult.
Well, we haven't seen any USB ports on it, right, Derek? Like
I didn't see it. The only side of the
dock,
the Switch that we haven't seen is where the bottom is, like the bottom line where we assume it connects to the dock, and there's the left side of the back as well, which we haven't seen too much out of. But I do expect, since you typically charge the system through the dock, that there's probably going to be another kind of more normal charger for it as well, especially for trips. You don't want to have to pull out the dock and plug it in at the airport.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a disaster. Like because like a lot of planes now have power outlets right next to the seat, but yeah, you can't play if it's in the actual dock. So there has to be a port to charge that independently, which like the gamepad. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they really have to do that. That has to be the case, I feel like. Alright guys, any final thoughts all about anything related to the Switch? Anything we haven't touched on yet, or any final points you wanted to bring up? Final opinions, final things you expect from it, whatever you want. Push Dustin, you got anything for us?
Do you think they're going to sell that car mount?
That's a great question.
Yes, I think that car mount, I mean, that looked so customized to the Switch that I cannot see it not being a possible accessory.
I don't know. I'm a little bit afraid of like liability concerns. Like, you know, you get in a car accident, that thing just goes flying across the car.
Oh, but there's other car mounts out there too, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a.
But this
liability.
one's this one's like in the back though, right? Like,
oh, I had a car. No, I had a car. I remember having a long trip, having a little TV set up. We could watch videos of one, and it hooked up to the headrest, pretty much like that.
Okay.
So
it'd be funny to use that on a plane, just have it like hang out in the aisle, just chilling there. I think it was kind of cool seeing that. It's like, well, that's something I would never thought of, having a dock for your car, and that would be pretty neat. Like that, you know, it'd be pretty cheap too, I would think.
I can't imagine it being too much. Like the funny thing is, I used that sort of setup we have on our long trip, and I just happened to bring along my PlayStation 2. It's like, I wonder if I could get this to work, and I was able to. I forget how I did it, but there was some sort of power source that I could use, where I could plug in my PS2, plug it into that TV, and I played Beyond Good and Evil the entire trip down.
God, Beyond Good and Evil 2 better be coming to this.
Well, I guess speaking of that, third parties. Are you confident about the third party support, Push Dustin?
So Nintendo released the list of third parties, and I think it's a pretty good list right now. It's kind of hard to say, you know, how much exactly support they're gonna get. Like, is it gonna be one game, 2 games? Like, is it gonna be like Ubisoft with the Wii U?
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're gonna put out one game, maybe 2, see how it does, and if it fails, like, we're gone.
Yeah, I won't believe anything third party related until I see it with my own eyes. I will say I did have like a little whiff of Wii U announcement when they were showing off the third party games, or I guess they only really showed 2, I guess. But one of them was essentially a last generation game. That gave me like just a little bit of a whiff of a Wii U announcement where they were showing off like, you know, games that had already come out, like Mass Effect and, you know, a few others I can't remember now. So,
The Batman game.
Yeah, Batman. Yeah, there we
the
go.
Batman games.
Yep.
The only thing that kind of saves Skyrim in that case is the fact that it is getting an HD re-release, I think, next week.
Right, that's right.
So that does help it slightly. That one would think it'd be that HD version rather than the PS3 360 version that came out years ago. Mm-hmm. God, I hope so. But that also raises another question in that Bethesda is not really confirming that Skyrim is coming to the Switch. They're just not. They're not committal to that, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not official?
Yeah, they said
Apparently
they have nothing to comment at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they're being vague on that, but
Yeah.
that'd be kind of I think it'd be kind of embarrassing if that was in their like announcement reel and it doesn't come out. So I expect that at least to come out, but
One would hope, and you know, if you don't have a gaming PC, the Switch is a great way to be able to take Skyrim on the go.
yeah, I mean that is kind of what this is. Like, it allows you to play, you know, PC like games that you would only otherwise be able to play on a PC portably, without having to drag your PC with you or, you know, haul your PC around with you. So even though the Switch may not be the most like portable system, it's portable enough.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's like the key takeaway here. Like, people already have, you know, a small device to carry with them, being their phone. I think it makes sense to go a little bit bigger, offer a more premium experience, if you will. And it really does seem like they're going premium on this. You know, at least by Nintendo standards, certainly. Like, this thing does not look like a toy like the gamepad does, and I love that. Like, it looks like they are aiming. I mean, even the ad seemed more mature focused. Like, you don't.
There were no kids.
There were no kids. Yeah, no kids. Just muostly adults, millennials playing with the thing. So,
pretty much.
You know, people have rooftop parties, evidently.
Yeah, I've never been invited to one of those. Of course, I don't live in a city, so yeah.
Yeah, I've been to one, so I guess it is kind of a thing sometimes.
Wow. I will say, I mean, people will obviously bring up PC gaming and all that stuff as a comparison. Like, just bring your laptop and pop it out. Andre, you've seen my laptop and how much of a beast it is. So.
Oh yeah, they're not convenient at all.
The Switch is a much better idea for me as far as gaming.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting device in that there is really no other device that works quite like it. I know there've been similar things. There's been the
Shield?
Shield, thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
But this is the first time we've had from a gaming focused company. So I really do think it's going to be, or at least I hope it's a whole different animal here in terms of how it's received by the market. But that's the big question: is how well is this going to be received? And that's something we'll find out in actually just 6 months or 5 months even. Which it's still that's crazy to me. Like, I mean, I pretty much expected them to stay true to it, but I always had to that announced release date in the back of my mind. I'm like, man, are they going to delay it? Like, and this still time, but I think they are going to hold to it now, especially with them re-announcing it, and that's crazy. This is a system we barely know anything about that's coming out in 5 months. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Yep, but you get that information machine going and get that news flowing, and all of a sudden you have like I said before, that wall-to-wall Switch news for those 3 months, keeping people alert, attentive, and just on point, so they get more and more excited. So this strategy can work now that I've seen it in action. I'm basing that on Pokemon, but considering Pokemon's been able to maintain my hype for the months that I've been covering it, if they can do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that about wraps up for us here. So, Push Dustin, do you want to tell people where they can find you at?
So you guys can find me on Twitter at PushDustIn, or you can follow Source Gaming by looking up at AllSourceGaming. We do lots of translations, news, bunch of stuff. So check out sourcegaming.info.
And you really should go check it out, because they do some really cool stuff over there. And of course, if you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can find links to them in the description below, as a good way to keep up to date on everything we post. And of course, stay tuned to our Game Explained YouTube channel to stay up to date on the Switch and other things gaming as well. Catch you guys later. Bye.